Welcome back to Part Tea with Becky and Kenzie. We have a new topic that is definitely something that just came about because of some new news that I have. I am currently pregnant and didn't know for quite some time. So, our topic is going to be just the mental transition from when you find out you're pregnant and all of the different things that come along with that. We're going to talk about our stories of when we found out, all the emotions that go along with that, and yeah, I guess we'll just get started. We both don't really have many notes for this because you can never really be prepared when this happens, even if it's something you planned or not. So, I guess, should I just start with my
Yeah,
story?
you said I have no notes. 'Cause, like, I'm gonna be a mom and just go like fly by the seat of my pants, I guess.
Sounds good. I'm sure I'm gonna have to do that too. So,
Yeah.
um, my situation was a little unique. I did not know I was pregnant until I was already 7.5 months, which is really crazy. I won't get into all the logistics of that, but I'll keep that private. But I always saw that show on TLC or whatever it is where they never knew they were pregnant. And I was like, oh, that would never be me. I would know. Like, how could you not know? But it's true. You could not know for several different reasons. So that was my situation. So I knew I wasn't, um, you know, feeling the best, but I didn't have the normal pregnancy symptoms. Like I didn't have morning sickness. I wasn't tired. I wasn't achy. The only thing I started to feel was that I thought I was bloated, but it happened to be the baby kicking me. So that was the only symptom that I really had. And that's when I went to the doctor and found out. So that is definitely a different type of birth story than most people have. Usually, even if it's a surprise or it's a happy accident, you find out earlier on. Um, but this did not happen that way. So definitely a little unique. And I know Becky, your story it has some humor to it as well. If you want to share yours.
Yeah. My story, I found out it was actually before Mother's Day. I don't know if it was Mother's Day weekend, like Saturday, and then Sunday was Mother's Day, or the weekend before. I was eating breakfast. I had made eggs on toast, and I was eating. Derek was out running, so I'm by myself, and I took a couple bites, and I felt like my throat felt weird. Yeah, mommy's telling a story. My throat felt weird, and I felt like I was gonna throw up. But I was like, am I having an allergic reaction? Am I gonna throw up? So I go running into the bathroom because I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna throw up. And then I'm like, when is my period supposed to come? Like, what, it was just kind of like, check my little app and it says 5 days late. And I'm like, that's a little weird because usually I'm like pretty on schedule. So I go in the cabinet and I had some pregnancy tests. So I'm like, okay, let me like take this test. And it was the strips. So it's not the one that says pregnant. It's just the strips. Dip the strip, wait however long. And then I see 2 lines, but I'm like, I had to read to be what is it supposed to be? 1 line, 2 lines. I was just like, I had like a moment where I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing, like how to read this. So then it said 2 lines pregnant. So I'm like, no. I was just like, let me take another test. Like it's like a messed up test or whatever. So I ended up taking a second test, 2 lines, and now I'm waiting for Derek to come home because I'm by myself, but I'm just like, how am I going to tell him? Like, when did this happen? Like, like you start thinking like all these things. I started crying. I was excited. I was nervous. I was scared. Like all of these emotions just like flooded me at once. Like it was a very overwhelming feeling. Yeah. So while I was waiting for him, I'm like looking at these tests and they're expired. So I'm like, oh God, like this would be a really cruel joke. Like if that, didn't work. So he comes home, or I might have texted him or said something. I need you to come into the bathroom. I have to show you something. Because I'm not gonna be carrying these pee sticks like around the house. And so now he's thinking that I broke something, because that's normally like if I have to show him something, like I broke something, and I just point, and he goes, "You're pregnant?" And I was like, "I don't know. These tests are expired. I have to go to the store and get the tests." So, we have like a little moment, like, he gives me a hug and I'm like crying and he's happy. And it was just like a chaotic moment.
Yeah. So, you're not really sure, but you think.
Yeah. And then it's like in the beginning, like, we wanted to wait because, like things can happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to call my best friend because I was like, I don't know what kind of test I'm supposed to get. Like, I've always used just the strips.
Mm-hmm.
And so I call her. She's driving. Looking back on this was really stupid on my part, but I couldn't think straight. And I FaceTime her and I'm like, I have to show you something. So she's driving and she sees the test. And then so she's freaking out. And I'm like, but I need to go to the store. Like, what am I supposed to get?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're expired. So it was the clear blue. I think clear blue with she goes, get the words. So I got a 2-pack. It came in a 2-pack. So I was like, all right, just in case, like I have like a backup one. So I did that one. And then it said pregnant. So now I'm like, I was like shocked.
Yeah.
Because it was like we were unofficially trying. So it was like a happy surprise.
Right.
But then I'm thinking back, like, how did this happen? When did this happen? Like, you just start thinking, and I'm like, well, how many months? Like, just trying to figure. I didn't know like all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And because it was a weekend, I had to wait till Monday to call the doctor.
That's so funny. Yeah, it's definitely like shocking news, whether you're trying or not trying. Like it's just you don't expect it, even if you were planning it. It's like it's just a big news, regardless of how you find out or what the situation is. So I could definitely relate to that because mine was also, I definitely wasn't trying, but it happened. And it's interesting because I wasn't not being careful. I was using this non-hormonal birth control after I got off of regular birth control, but it's not as effective, they say, and all of this stuff. So I was like really shocked to find out that like I was still trying to be safe and it still happened. So you never know.
Well, I didn't know they made that. That's a good disclaimer. Like, not effective.
Not as effective. Well, so then when I started reading about it, well, like, how could this happen? I asked my doctor, like, I switched right to the non-hormonal one. Like, when did this happen? Like, and probably as soon as you came off, all of your eggs dropped because you now
super fertile.
Yeah.
I was thinking that because I was like, okay, like trying to, because I know the whole like birth control. I was like, well, she came off. Maybe she just had a surge of like
so
all the hormones, like all like the fertility was
so apparently that's what happened. Meanwhile, I'm thinking like when you get off, it takes a while to get pregnant because your body has to regulate and all this stuff. But apparently it happened literally right away because
like
I
5 minutes.
I got off of the pill form May 3rd and they said I conceived May 22nd or something like that.
Oh, that's my birthday.
And so it was like right around that week. They weren't sure the exact like date, or of course, because like I'm so far along, so it's hard to tell. But that was definitely a shock because I'm thinking, oh, I'm not getting, my period because I'm still regulating myself from being off of. And they told me that too. They're like, you're not going to get it for a while. And I'm like, okay, so that wasn't an indicator in my head. I had no other symptoms. I had no food aversions. I was, had the same energy level. To me, I didn't have any mood changes, but looking back, I definitely could like and the only thing, like I said, was like I started feeling, I would describe it as these little bubbles bursting, but it was the baby that was
Yeah. So
so
do you remember the first when you like the date of when you first felt that?
so I don't know the date, but I know it was
Or the
around
month?
September, and I started to feel like what I thought was like an like gastrointestinal thing or like a digestive thing, because I started feeling bloated. So I was probably around 5 months ish
Okay.
when I started feeling that.
I asked this. They always, so like these little like old wives' tales.
Yeah.
These are really fun. So my best friend, her mom said the first time you feel the baby kick, the baby will come 4 months after.
Wow.
So mine was
Just about, yeah.
so August is when the first kick.
Mm-hmm.
So August, September, December, and she came in December. So you said, so what was it?
It was like end of September, early October. Yeah.
Okay, so January. So anytime.
You day now.
Then, oh, there's another one that I wanted to do with you. Can you show me your hands?
Just like this.
Here, both hands.
Let me put the tea down. Okay.
Okay, so that, oh.
Uh-oh.
So my uncle, so when I told my family, my uncle or my great uncle was like, show me your hands. And I think this way I did this. And he goes, it's a girl. And I think this way is boy. So like, I think I just went like that. And he goes, I think I might be like messing that one up. I don't remember.
So interesting.
So I was like, oh, that was before our gender reveal. So we were gonna find out, and I know you're gonna wait.
We're gonna wait, so we have no idea.
But we should do a poll.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
The viewers, like, if you guys
Do you think
Kenzie's having a girl or boy, and tell us in the comments.
Saying because you didn't get sick or anything, or you didn't like feel anything, that it's because the girls take a lot out of you.
Yeah, so every symptom that you did not have, I had the morning, all day. It wasn't just morning sickness, it was all day. I had the morning sickness, I was tired, I was super hormonal, I had round ligament pain, I could feel my bones like shifting, like I don't know if you've felt that or felt that yet, where like
my back like started, because I've been going to the chiropractor, and I asked her, I'm like, I feel like my progress is like regressing, like I feel like my back is getting worse, like I don't know what's going on, like I'm doing all the exercises, I'm coming for my adjustments, and for the longest time she was not sure, like she felt hormonal changes in my spine, but she thought it was from like chemical toxins and like just environmental stuff. Before I found out, she knew that I had like hormonal like changes, but we never questioned that it was because of the baby, because I was so dead set on the fact that I wasn't pregnant. And it's so interesting that you say that too. Like, I think once you know, your body also responds differently. So like, because I didn't know, and I convinced myself that that wasn't a possibility, that it was just some like digestion issue, that that my body wasn't reacting in the way that it would if I knew from the beginning. Because your brain is very powerful. Like as soon as I found out, then I started feeling everything. Like the baby would kick more, like I started feeling, the tiredness, the back pains more, and like everything just kind of came all at once, because like consciously I now knew that there was a baby there.
Do you have any acid reflux yet?
Not yet.
I was the third trimester, I turned into like a fire breathing dragon, because I was
everyone
that's pressure. Oh my god.
I definitely feel a lot of pressure. But it's more just like I have to pee, like type of pressure.
Okay. And I keep joking. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be such an easy like labor and delivery. I'm like, baby's just gonna fly right out. Like,
Yeah, I'm hoping we'll see.
hopefully that's the goal. I mean, my labor and delivery, it was almost 16.
Wow.
When
Yeah.
I
They
look
say
back,
that's normal though. 12 to 14 hours is like normal for
oh my god,
labor. Yeah.
yeah. And then like you watch some birthing videos, and it's like, oh, in 5 minutes, one push, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
possible, because every pregnancy and every
So
birth is so different. But yeah, that I never knew what tired was until like then, and then when she was born, like
yeah.
it, like to the point where opening containers or opening, like I was dropping things because you're so tired. There's a show on Netflix. I forget the name of this show, but they have the contestants. It's like a game show. They stay up for 24 hours counting coins.
Okay.
And then afterwards, they have to do like one was change batteries in a toy, but they hadn't slept for like 24 hours. So
Wow.
I was like, that's what being a mom feels like.
That's
Doing
so
all like
interesting.
watching that show, I was like, yeah, I was like, you can't function, like do normal things or easy things. So
So funny.
that's interesting.
I did want to go back to like kind of like the emotions that come along with everything. Like you said, like first you're excited, then you're nervous, then you're crying, then you're happy. Like
Yeah.
I definitely think that that's like not what's portrayed in like
Yes, everything is
and
so happy.
everything's so happy, everything's perfect, but you don't realize that it's like more than just those moments. Like there are those times where you're scared or you're almost like I don't want to say it this way, but it's almost like mourning the loss of your old self. It's like, okay, now
Yeah,
I'm like this new, I have to like jump into this new role, whether I'm ready or not. Like, again, whether you plan it or not, that's something that comes up for you. It's like,
yeah,
my whole world is going to change now. So
yeah,
like that transition of, okay, I'm supposed to be happy because that's what I see when people, that's what you see in the media, you read in books, that's what everyone tells you it's supposed to be the most like joyous time. But they don't talk about all the times where you might feel anxious or you're scared or you don't feel prepared and all of that part of things because I feel like that's the real stuff like that they should tell you
yeah.
about.
And even like your body. I wish somebody told me your body's not going to be your own for a long ass time,
Yeah.
because you're pregnant and then, you're carrying another person and your back hurts and it's like you're eating for two, like,
Right.
that cliche thing. But it's like, I know for me, like, the eating part, I ate pretty healthy because I craved like fruits, vegetables. There's
Right.
one time where I was drinking chocolate milk, like at like, and I don't normally stuff like that. I'd be like,
Yeah.
just and like just somebody was always attached to me, like like now,
Yeah.
like that in the beginning because you're so sleep deprived. I wish someone, and even breastfeeding, like you're breastfeeding and that takes a toll, like the whole, like the pregnancy. I don't want to say that it was easy because, there's challenges, but the emotions, because she came a month early, I was grieving. Like, it was like I was so excited for her to be here, and then she was here, and I'm like, but I lost the whole month of being pregnant.
Yeah.
Like it was this weird, like grieving moment of like, but I still want her like in my belly and feeling her kick. She would kick
Right.
me all day, like nonstop. I think they said like, oh, a healthy baby, it was like 10 kicks in a day. And I'm like, what about 10 kicks in an hour? And she still kicks me. She's still like, with feet. That's, she cracks me up. But I definitely think I was in the beginning, I was so excited, but then I'm in that old age pregnancy. So then they scare the crap out of you with all these genetic testing, all these extra tests, like the older you are. So then there's the stress. you're scared, you're stressed, is
Yeah.
baby okay? Because I did have some bleeding also a couple times in the beginning. That was really scary, trying to call the doctor and I'm hysterically crying and couldn't even get the words out.
Right.
To make, like, I have never known fear like that. Like this,
That
it's
feels,
the emotions, like the usual like human emotions get like magnified when it's like you're literally creating a life,
yeah.
then you're bringing a life into the world, then you're taking care of that life for the rest of your life, so it's like heightened, it's like emotions on steroids, I guess is the best way to
Yeah.
describe it.
And like that fear, like you said, like because I didn't find out till I was already so far along, that was like my biggest thing was like, is the baby okay? Like, what have I done the last 7 months
Yeah,
that like been aware of? And like, thank God everything's okay. I did all the necessary tests and the baby is healthy and I'm healthy. But it was a scary couple weeks of waiting for those results and like just hoping that you did everything right before knowing. Like,
yeah,
even if you don't find out, and like most people don't find out till they're like, what, around 3 months is like a normal, like up to like usually if you find out right away, you're 2 weeks in or something, but it can be anywhere from 2 weeks to like 2 months or something where people actually find out. And that in itself is like, oh, well, what did I do this last month? But me, I was like, what did I do for 7 months? That's almost like a whole year that I have to like track all the way back.
yeah,
It was definitely like that fear of like I wanted to be excited, even though like, it wasn't something that was planned. Like I was still excited. Like I've always wanted to be a mom. Like that's definitely like in my plan, but I didn't think now, but it was more of just like that, like, oh my God, like did I not take care of this human inside of me for 7 months? Like, is it going to be okay? Like, do I have enough time to fix it? Like, there's only a few months left. Like, that was like my biggest, like, emotional, I guess, hurdle to get over. But then once everything came back, it was okay, I can breathe and like just enjoy the rest of whatever's left. There's not much time left.
yeah,
So it was also like sort of like that grieving, sort of like you said, like that month that she came early, you were almost grieving that last month of pregnancy. I felt bad because I'm like, I wasn't consciously connecting, with the baby for a very long time. So that made me nervous of like, is the baby going to feel, neglected? Like, how do they feel? Do they know that I didn't know? Like, and all of those sort of emotions sort of came up for me. So like sort of like that lost feeling of like you never really know like what's going to affect your baby. Like,
yeah. I think too. And then once we started doing the birthing classes, then I was like so scared. I couldn't even watch, like, because I'm so squeamish with like blood and guts and like any on the surface of the skin, I'm fine. It's everything that's internal. I'm like, I can't. Every time they would show like the full like shot of like labor, I'm like, nope. I'm just gonna look down, and I'm not even gonna look at this because it's gross. Like, just it. I was like, I didn't want to know. I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to see down there and know what's going on. Why do I need to see this?
right,
And I
exactly.
think even in labor and delivery, they asked if I wanted a mirror, and I was like, nope. So, and I kept my eyes closed. I think, my water broke at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I was like, did it break or did I just pee myself?
Right.
Like that third trimester, there's so much pressure.
Yeah.
So I'm like, did I pee myself? Did my water just break? Like, because being a first time mom, like, you don't know what these feelings and experiences are going to be until you experience it.
Right.
And, then I was scared. Like, it was like being pregnant. I was excited. I was happy. I was in this like dream world, like, where it's like, oh, the stork is going to come and
Right.
just put the baby down. Like, and then it was like, oh my God, there is like a whole thing to this. And it was scary. Like I was more afraid. I wasn't afraid of like contractions and like because my periods were so painful for so long that I have a pretty high pain tolerance. Even if I'm throwing up because I'm in pain,
Yeah.
I at least tolerate it. I didn't want the epidural. That freaked me out more than like labor, delivery, and all that. And then tearing like that, like just these like all these like little things,
Yeah.
or the tools that they show you in the birthing class. I'm like, I wasn't sticking anything anywhere. Like, but like the labor and delivery, I'm like, no, this isn't natural. Like I kept telling myself, women for thousands of years have been giving birth in like the forest and fields and like in the middle of like nowhere with no hospital, no doctors. I was like, so biologically, we're able to do this. Like it's all the external things were freaking me out. And I did end up, because it was such a long span of time and I was so tired.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not going to have energy to push this child, this baby. And I didn't want the epidural because it would drop her heart rate. So that was that was like a side effect. So I was like holding off, but that first like super intense, like in the beginning, I was laughing. I was like, oh, I'm talking a lot of shit for being like pregnant. Where I was like, oh, this is easy. This just feels like period cramps. Like, oh, I should be fine.
And then
that like mega contraction hit. I'm throwing up in the bag. Like I don't know, they had like throw up bags and I was like, holy crap. I was like, that just took like so much energy out of me.
Right.
So I ended up, I had like a traumatic, and another thing they don't talk about, like the traumatic labor and delivery like experiences. So I had the epidural when I was basically about to give birth. Like they were trying to, and I guess it's, what is it, transition or whatever the stages of labor. Like I'm literally like going to the end. And that's why I had those intense contractions, because they gave me this tablet. So it was like a homeopathic, we talk about like remedies, and it was something to start contracting, like to basically get that your uterus like contracting. And so the nurse was like, well, we normally give patients 4. And I was like, please give me 1. I know my body, I'm super sensitive. I just need 1. Let's see how I do with 1. So in 2 hours, I went from 4 centimeters to 10 centimeters, like ready. And she's like, wow, like we normally give like 4, she couldn't believe it. I was like, listen to me when I tell you.
I know my body.
Yeah. So the anesthesiologist finally, now the position that they put you in, so uncomfortable when you're like in labor. All I wanted to do was put my arms, I needed to like hang, because they all those like different positions depending. No, I had to like hug a pillow. Like when you're like in pain and you're just like, I needed to like brace myself. But I knew I could not move my back. And Derek was in the room. I was surprised because I thought that like they just moved him like to the side that he was facing me. And he said, he goes, you did not move your back. And I was like, but my legs were shaking like uncontrollably. Like my back was still, my legs were just shaking, and it was crazy. Just, I was sweating, I was freezing, like the whole like physical, like emotional, physical, spiritual.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, but just know there will be a point when you're in labor, it's oxytocin gets released. So that like feel good chemical and like, hormonal reaction. When I felt that, I felt like I was high. I was like, like, what is this? Like, what's happening? Like, is this the epidural? Like, what's going on? But my 2 best friends, they didn't understand. They're like, are you sure you got the epidural? Because I felt everything.
Right.
Like I felt her like coming out. I did have like a little bit of tearing, and they're like, you can feel this. Like that was another thing that freaked me out. So I want to talk about like the like emotions of like
Yeah.
feeling like, I don't know, for whatever reason, being stitched up freaked me out.
Yeah.
Like it
I
just, it was
understand.
so, but afterwards, like you just gave birth, like it's like this, you're kind of numb.
Yeah.
Like you're just, everything is kind of numb because you just like went through this big event. So they're like, you could feel that, and I'm like, yeah, I felt everything, you know. So, but I don't think, I guess there's a button that you're supposed to push, because then the nurse was like, oh, push the button. So after she's been delivered, then they push the friggin' button, and then I have to wait however long to even get out of bed, like after that. So I was like, oh, maybe this, like I had a natural as could be, because the nurse also said by the time I got the epidural, she was like, well, you basically had a natural childbirth. Like, and I was like, so that was frustrating. So like the whole, because I had asked for it well in advance. I don't even know. Like it was still like light out when I asked for it, and then it's now dark. And you know, she was born at night. So that whole,
That's like another thing like people don't talk about too is almost like the pressure or like feeling like you don't have control of the situation because you're at the doctor's leisure. Like I know one of my friends was like she didn't want to be induced and they almost did it without her like consenting to it. Like obviously she had the baby and everything came out fine and she's okay, but she looking back, she's like, I don't think I ever told them that it was okay to induce me. Like I wasn't ready for that. Like, and so it's almost like you're relinquishing this control, like, and it's scary. Like you would want your doctors to listen to you, but sometimes they have their set procedures that they do with everyone regardless, and they think that everybody wants the same thing, and that's just not the case. So it's definitely like scary going into that setting, feeling like you're not in control. And like you can only prepare so much, like we said, like you could read all the books you want and feel like you know all the information, but when you're in that state, you're not thinking clearly. You're just like, I need to have this baby.
I'm
So
so glad you brought that up, because I had a moment, the nurse that was my, I guess, delivery nurse, she was wearing perfume. And like, okay, so before being pregnant, smells would bother me. When I was pregnant, I was like a bloodhound. Like any smell, like even just food smell, like any smell would make me nauseous. I was scared to say something because I was like, this is the person that's gonna like hold my child or like help deliver my baby. I was afraid to say like, hey, can you go wash yourself off? Like, because your perfume is making me nauseous. I was so scared. Like I was scared to speak up. And I understand why a lot of people want to do home births, because like the hospital setting,
it's traumatizing.
it's scary, it's traumatizing, it's stressful if you don't have like, oh, the baby just flies right out. Like if you have complications, if you have any kind of delay, if there's something wrong, it's so scary feeling like you're not in control, and that like I was trying to protect her before she was even born. You know, like I was afraid to say certain things because I was afraid that they were going to do something to her, which I did have. Like one of the nurses, when she was born, it was an older nurse. I was so out of it because she was in the NICU. So she wasn't with me. Like, so I wasn't sleeping because she wasn't with me. If she was in the room, I wouldn't be sleeping because of like feeding and stuff. And she was trying to teach me how to breastfeed. And it was like the middle of the night. I'm like half dead. And the way she kept moving Violet's head, I was like, looking back, I had to talk about this with my naturopath because she explained it to me that I was like, well, I was crying because I was like, I couldn't say anything. It's like I was frozen. And she said, because you were in shock. Like you just gave birth, like your body, like everything was still in shock. Like you were in shock. You know, because I'm like, oh my God, I couldn't protect her. I couldn't say like, don't. And looking at it, I'm like, she's shaking my baby. Like when that's what the like those birthing videos and those videos are like, don't shake a baby, and like she's shaking her, and she was so the washcloths that I had, like she was the size of the washcloth, like her whole body, like we would put the washcloth on her like for like burping cloth or whatever, and it was like the whole size of her whole body. So she was this little tiny like peanut, and that was traumatizing in itself. So it's like
These
this
are all the things.
like picture perfect like pregnancy, labor, delivery. Like it's not real.
Doesn't exist.
Like, okay, maybe some people have it easier, but like stop like these like Instagram like families like with this like and like I'm like full like makeup and I look well rested and I'm like and she's 2 days old and I'm like I was a hot ass mess. Like
it should be.
like my hair, even I was joking because like, oh my God, I pushed so hard that like I pushed the curls right out of my hair. My hair changed afterwards. And I did have, I think I probably broke some blood vessels in my cheeks because for like a couple weeks after I had these really, really pink cheeks. Like it looked like I had on a lot of blush.
So yeah, as you can see, like the normal labor and delivery is not this picture perfect moment that you usually see depicted in media, or even when you read about it. You can read as much as you want about how the process is going to work, but until you're in it, you're not going to know what to expect. Like I'm reading all these like natural birth books and I'm like, okay, this sounds like, not like you said, not easy, but it's like, oh, this sounds like logical and in order, but I know it's not going to happen that way. Like you never really know what is going to come up, but I think it's important to highlight the other side of things, the not so joyous moments, the traumatic parts of it, the parts where they don't tell you about, because that's what Party with Becky and Kenzie is all about, is telling you all the real stuff instead of the fluffy fake things that will happen. So thank you for sharing your story, Becky. It definitely has helped prepare me to feel a little more normal in this process, because like you said, you see the Instagram births and everything's perfect, but you can't expect that that's what it's going to be. So I guess we'll end there, and I'm sure we'll have some more mom videos coming up once I actually do deliver.
I'm so excited. And I guess I'll put my guess. I think boy, even though I have like a bunch of girl stuff that I want to give you.
So take a poll, let us know what you think.
Yes, and the best advice I could give from the birthing class was, and this is something that was kind of like my mantra going into it, was don't hold in what your body's trying to push out. That I just kept like repeating, like when it's go time,
Let it out.
There's like the steps where you're like, when you're supposed to push, when you're not supposed to push, when you're supposed to breathe, when you're supposed to hyperventilate and panic and hold your breath. And that I just kept kind of saying that, like, just get it out.
Yeah, they said that too in a lot of the books. It's like anything that you're holding on to, even emotionally, like you have to speak your fears, because that actually helps with works with your body. If you're holding things in, your body's not going to open up freely, vulnerable to have this baby. If you're holding on to things, it's going to stay closed and it's going to be harder to push that baby out. So releasing and relinquishing everything that you're holding in, like you said, is definitely important.
The most difficult part, I thought the most difficult part was the head, but I learned birthing class is the shoulders. I was screaming. So when you talk about like not like or like I was screaming. Like, somebody told me to be quiet, and I was like, "You be quiet!" Like I was just
they tell you that.
Yeah, it's like so weird where they're like, I think they were trying to calm me down, but it was like, just let me like do. Yeah. So in that sense, like if looking back, it's like I would have liked maybe a home birth, but because she had to be taken to the NICU, like that's where my whole like, like with my experience, like I'm like, I understand why people do it. And like for full term babies is probably more safe, I guess, like for less
definitely,
because she
have
was
to be low risk in order to have
they had me categorized like as high risk. So the shoulders
the
like
worst part.
felt, but you'll get through it, like
it's out, you forget about it.
but the best feeling once the shoulders come out, everything just slides right out. Like
the rest is easy.
It's like like I think I even was like, and when the placenta, like I remember the placenta, it was like such a relief or like a release. Like when that came out, I was just like, I felt like I could breathe. Like I just a weight was lifted off of me.
Did you feel like empty after, like emotionally or physically? Like, did you feel empty?
No, I felt, I don't know, because they pushed that button. So like I was riding high, like, and I was just so happy. Like I just kept saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I was crying. Like, it's like, I did
You're
this.
more focused on the baby.
Like and that's what I wanted to mention. So in the like laboring part, I had an out of body experience. It was like this, I only had this one other time when I was in the hospital with pneumonia and sepsis, where I felt like I was out of my body. I was watching myself, like looking from the out, like, and so it was like this, again, I think that was the oxytocin or just like whatever that was, but it was a good feeling. Like I was so hyper focused. I said to them, tell me what I need to do when I need to do it. I'm listening to you. Just tell me what and when, because that's what I was focusing on. Like how, like contractions and like the pain part, that's how I was managing my pain, was tell me what I needed to do. Or I would, like, if I was hot, like with those contractions, and I wanted to be naked. Like I was like, can I just please be naked? Like just this pound feels like 100-pound weight. Like I always joke where it's like I could have been naked in the street giving birth, like and not even and that was all. I had this like fear of like, oh my God, like everyone is going to be in places that they don't need to be. And in that moment, I'm like, I don't even care. Put me on television. Like, I don't need, like, it was just this, like.
Because you get that surge of, like you said,
those like, what is that? Like, not giving a fuck? Like, that book, like, that's what it becomes. And I think it was just afterwards, because, like, it's, at least for me, it was like I'm very happy, like I was relieved because like, holy crap, I just did that. Like, and then it was like, oh my God, like this, I still can't believe, like 2 years later, I'm like, is she real? Like, like I was in shock for such a long time. Like, it was like, we have this little, like, we're a family of 3 now. And even now it's like, I'm a mom. It's weird. Like, I don't feel like a mom. Like, I'm a mom.
Right.
But I think because like we're not doing like the normal, like the world is not normal right now. So being at home with her, I'm like, okay, like, what's up, friend? Like, like, what do you do today? Like, would you like to go in the living room or the dining room to play? Like, and stuff like that. So it's just afterwards, it was just, I was enjoying those like moments, and I haven't really shared this with many people, but I guess, and I wasn't sure because I didn't want to like put not an expectation, or like maybe put something in your head and make you see something that you didn't see. But when I was 15, my dad passed away, and it wouldn't be a video if I wasn't crying. And I saw his face when she was born, and they put her on my stomach. I was afraid to look at her. Like, I had my eyes closed. Like, my water broke. I packed my bag, and then from the time we were in the car to the hospital, like I was just like, I had my eyes closed. Like, I think that was me trying to like ground myself, calm myself down. And when they put her, and then I also had a moment of like, what if she's ugly? Like what? Like, what if I have an ugly baby? Like so stupid. Like, and it's like, and I'm sure other moms
No,
can relate
that's definitely
to that because that was like a
something you
stupid
think
thing.
about.
And I laughed like saying that. And so when she came out and they put her on my stomach, and it took me like I was just like, okay, give me a minute. Like I
Yeah.
can't like just and I opened my eyes and my dad's face like flashed like
Wow.
across her face.
That's
And like
amazing.
it was so like surreal. That I was like, okay, everything's gonna be okay. Like it
Yeah.
was almost like kind of like this guardian angel moment.
Right.
And it's just like
That's
it was
amazing.
so surreal. And then um another like tear jerking moment this past Thanksgiving. We were at my mom's, and my mom has this mug that somebody had, I think it was one of my aunts, had made for her. It was a picture of her and my dad. But in the photo, like my mom, she's like, I hate this photo because he looked sick, like he was very sick.
Mm, yeah.
And they're like, why did she pick this like the worst photo that like she could have picked? But she has this mug. Um, and for whatever reason, I don't know if Violet was pointing to it or something.
Mhm.
And so she showed Violet the mug, and I'm trying not to, I gotta like get this out before I like burst into tears. And she's never seen a picture of my dad.
Yeah.
And she goes, Dad. And
Wow.
I'm like,
I
and then
literally just got chills.
she points to my mom and she goes, Mama. And I was just like, me and my mom just start like
Oh my,
bawling.
I literally have chills.
Yeah. Like
That's
it was
so
just
sweet.
like this, like I wasn't expecting that. I was just like,
Yeah.
because she has like a thing, like she's afraid of men right
Mm,
now. So I thought she would like yell or like,
yeah.
that she normally does when she's like, And when she did that, I was like, oh, like then I'm crying and, just all that.
It's very like it's a spiritual process too. Like
Yeah.
being pregnant, having children. Kids are very like instinctual and attuned to
Mhm.
spirit as well. Like when I was trying to make sure that the baby was healthy, like when I first found out, we had like that 2 week span of waiting for results and stuff. And the day that I was going to find out the results, or like somewhere in that week, I don't know if it was the exact day, but my mom said, I wasn't home. I don't remember what happened. Like she was just sitting in the kitchen or something. And my mom's mom passed away when I was 15. And she was like my, like, that was like my grandma. Like that was like, she was everything for our family. So when she passed, it was like a big transition. But when a couple years after she passed, my aunt got everyone this ornament with you open it up and it sings a little song, and there's a little scroll in it that says something nice about my grandma. And my mom was just sitting in the kitchen and we were waiting for the results and whatever, and she said the ornament just started playing. Like it only plays if you open it, and it wasn't opened, and she just heard the music going, and it was my nanny's ornament that was playing the music. And it only works if you open the top, but it wasn't
Yeah.
open, and it was playing this music. And she was like, okay, she knows, like it's gonna be okay, like she knows that there's a baby, like she's watching over. And then maybe a week later or so, a couple of weeks later, I had a dream where the baby met my grandma. And like I was watching, sort of like you said, like from the outside in. It was in my dream, but I was like standing on the outside watching myself hand the baby to her. And like they met for the first time. And in the dream it was a boy. So I don't know. I don't know. But it was just like very affirming to know, like, okay, like she's watching, she knows there's baby, and she has met him already, like, or her. I keep saying him. But it's definitely like that spiritual side of pregnancy is a very real thing too, especially when you're tuned in
Yes.
and open to the receiving those messages. So
I'll
like,
be curious when you give birth, not that I'm like, look for, because it's like, look for signs so you don't see it, but I'll be curious if you have a moment like that or see a flash of somebody like,
Right.
you know, the birthing experience, like it is kind of like super spiritual, like, and I was trying to tap into that again, like tapping into spirituality, tapping into all the tools that I have when I first started this like healing journey. It was mainly to heal myself. So then when it was time,
Right.
I didn't pass on any of that crap, to Violet, and just really using your tools that you have to get you through it. Like you'll make it through, and it's just it is a really spiritual, like amazing. That's the part that I think, like with the scans, like with the ultrasounds, like I'm like, wow, like seeing like the organs and the like the bones and just like the structures and everything like being created. That was like really cool to me. My uncle had shared, I don't know if he posted on Facebook or he texted it to me, but it's this little otter holding, I think, like a baby otter, and it was like, I made this, like, like, and I was like, because that's how I felt, or like, he made this, like,
So
like that's
cute.
how I felt, like when she was born, like
Yeah.
that whole thing.
I know. I'm excited for, like, as much as I'm maybe not as prepared for the pain part of it and like what's
Yeah.
actually gonna happen, because again, you don't really know until you're in it. But I'm excited more than anything. Like, yes, there's the nerves and everything of like, well, how do I take care of this human after it's born?
Yeah.
Like, but I have, a great support system. So I definitely am more excited than anything. So stay tuned.
Yeah, I'm so excited for you. You're gonna be such a good mom. Like I can't wait. And then we can do like mom videos and how like I can't stand like the wine moms, like annoying.
Oh, man. Or the people that want to tell you how you should do.
Yes. Yes.
We'll get into that another time.
Or when the baby's born.
Yeah,
So you have
definitely,
that experience.
for sure. Well, thank you guys as always for tuning in to part 2 with Becky and Kenzie, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.